Let's do a little test clean on the circuit board. Also notice how far out that horizontal coil is. That would be this guy, the horizontal ring coil. Now it isn't parallel with the .039. I'm thinking it's either the cracked core affecting it so much, or that this capacitor's off value. Now, since I had to back it out really far, I'm pretty sure that lowers the inductance, so I would have thought, if anything, a cracked core, meaning there's less core material, would lower the inductance, and I would need to put it in further, so I'm thinking the capacitor has drifted way off. Alright, where's a good spot to try cleaning? Yeah, let's do over in here. I want to try cleaning off the top of this coil too. I'm not just going to spray the board though. I'm going to spray it onto a Q-tip with a rag behind it so it doesn't go spraying everywhere. Alright, so let's try this coil top first. Well, I'll put some on the board as well. They say to let it sit for a minute or two. So let it do its thing. That's in frame, yeah. Alright, I'll try cleaning it off now. Yeah, it's taken off that sheen of, or that layer of gunk. It's not instant perfection, but I'm also putting a very small amount on. Let's check out the board. Yeah, that's doing a very nice job on the board as well. Cool. I gotta admit, I've never tried this product before. I'm glad my friend brought it over the other day while we were working on his radio. Let's also try some on this IF shield, which I'm expecting will end up nice and clean, looking like the tuner. So over here I tried some various things, like I mentioned earlier, jewelry cleaner, COR, some Simple 9, or Spray 9 I should say. Which is pretty nasty stuff. It's very alkaline. You don't want to get it on your fingers, but this stuff seems to be a lot more, well, it seems to be milder, but more effective at the same time. In other words, like my eyes aren't burning while I'm using it, where Spray 9 seems kind of like oven cleaner. You need to be a little bit more patient, though. Like when I did that tuner, not only did I use really hot water, I let it sit for a few minutes. So I'm going to apply a little bit more of this, let it sit for a few minutes, and then resume recording. It works, but not quite as dramatic. I think you really need to spray this stuff on heavy, and using hot water to rinse it off seems to help as well. Did do a nice job on these knobs, though. This is supposed to have a yellowish tinge. It's supposed to actually look like it's brass plated. I think it's cast aluminum. Then they coat it with something to make it look kind of brassy. So I don't want to get too aggressive, or I'll just completely take off whatever remains, and that should be painted red in there. I mean, eventually I'll clean it. So the whole thing should look like that. It should be kind of gleaming brass looking. But this certainly got looking a lot better. It won't be totally clear plastic. I don't even know that if it was originally. It's also very deeply scored. I'm thinking from years of this scraping against it. Alright, enough about cleaning. So, I am going to get to replacing more of these black caps in here, and I'm going to swap out the rest of the tubes as well. And then at some point I'm going to go back and test all the original tubes that came with this. Time for another power up. I cleaned those knobs. I swapped out all these tubes. So that'd be the IF and video output tube. And I replaced some more of the capacitors, but not all. It turns out that it's really hard to break up these vertically mounted plastic capacitors. The bodies on these are quite tough. I didn't want to put so much pressure on them that it would break the board. But I got most of the horizontally mounted ones out. There's one more down here. And I noticed when I took this one out, the capacitor was actually split open. And one vertically mounted one, well, two vertically mounted caps I did manage to replace. One of them was paper, and I was able to crush that one up with some wire nippers and get at the end that was against the board. And I was down in there, that guy. And the other one back here, I couldn't get the cap out. I just clipped off the top lead, left the capacitor in place, and put a new cap in, and that was part of the audio circuit. So with only one end of it attached, I don't think that would have really any effect on the circuit. There are 4 or 5 vertically mounted caps left. I'm not going to attempt to get them bypassed or replaced. That's just too much work. Eventually I'm going to pull this board out. So we'll get this working as good as we can. So we'll do this power up. See how things go. There's 1 or 2 more. There's a cap there. There's one down there I can replace. But kind of getting to the point of I've done as much as I can. But anyways, enough talking. I will also at some point get a converter box over here so we have a stronger signal source. Hey, the damper tube's staying lit on its own. So now the horizontal's really far out, and I'm thinking that's because I probably replaced, although it's also resisted, it was way off value. But now that I replaced some more bad caps, maybe I need to turn that slug really far the other way to get sync again. So let's see. Alright, so here is first IF, second IF, third IF, and video detector. Signal comes out and it goes into the sound circuitry. So in other words, the tuner and the IF are common to both. So if we have a decent picture, it's a pretty good indicator that we've got decent alignment and a decent signal strength coming through. So the problem with the audio should lie in here. It could simply be a matter of tweaking this coil or that coil. That would be these two. So I can give that a quick try. That, I believe, has 2 cores. So there'll probably be one at the top and one down below. There's so much debris in there right now I can't really even see. And of course you should use test equipment and follow the alignment procedure. But I thought maybe it'd be worth a quick try just to slightly tweak the coils left, right, and see what effect that has on the sound, see if it gets any louder. I've kind of given up on the damper tube. So I think we're getting close to the end point with this, where I've done as much as I can possibly do by working up above. But let me do a little more work on the sound and see what I can get. I've done everything I can think to do without taking out this circuit board. So, damper tube. I figured out it was pin 8 that wasn't making good contact with ground. Pin 7 and pin 8 are the filaments. One side of the filament for all the tubes goes to ground. The other side is a common 6.3 volt bus. I soldered a wire directly to pin 8 of the tube. I made a little loop around it, pushed it up close near the base, soldered it, and then tacked the other end onto ground. So, the damper tube now works without me having to push on it. Awesome. Replaced the last few caps that I could easily get at here and here. And I found another problem near the audio circuit. This resistor here should be 680 ohms. Well, the one that was in there measured considerably less. Which is odd, because these power resistors usually go up in value, or resistors I should say go up in value, not down. This is only measuring 33 ohms. It's supposed to be 680. So, let's see what that does. And finally, I rigged up an over-the-air converter box and wired it directly into the tuner with the help of a ballon. So, let us see what that gets us. And contact. The damper tube is lighting up without me having to stick my fingers on it. Oh, hang on. While I was testing, I forgot to put the vertical output tube oscillator back in its socket. Hang on. Let's try that again. Man, this CRT's seen a lot of abuse. Aha! Having a clean, strong signal sure makes a difference on the picture. So this is brightness. Nice. This is contrast. There should be a retrace line suppressor circuit. I wonder if that's not working, because I've seen some pretty prominent retrace lines. And the sound is still weak. Just fine tuning. That's a pretty darn respectable picture, I gotta say. So that was in the distant position, which has the highest gain. Now, considering I'm feeding a signal directly in, I shouldn't really need it to have it in the distance position. Which makes me think that there's still some issues with this set. But, all things considered, when I started on this project, I had no idea where it was going to take me. I honestly did not expect it to work anywhere near this well, considering the condition it was in, and considering my goal was to not just shotgun it. But I think I've reached a point where I've done as much as I can do. Potential issues, well, let's talk about it. I should say potential remaining issues. There are some vertically mounted plastic caps. I cannot get them, I can't replace them. I can't crush them and get them out of there. And bypassing them like I did this one is really tedious and awkward. I only replaced one of the networks. I don't believe there's one associated with the sound circuitry, which is these 3 tubes and these IF cans. I tried tweaking the cores. This is for the IF, this is for the quadrature detector, and it didn't make much difference. I mean, they seem to be aligned as it is. I don't think there are any issues with the tuner, in spite of it getting a bath. I don't think there's any issues with the IF necessarily, because we do have a pretty good picture, even though I do have the gain up quite a bit. There could be some bad socket connections. This tube in particular, the SC6, I had to rock a couple times because the filament went out. And that is a very critical tube to the sound circuit. There could be some broken traces underneath. Could be some bad connections. So I'm going to leave off here. Now that I've gone this far, I think the next thing you'll be seeing is me taking this board out, giving this thing a bath. At some point I need to rewire this harness, at least some of the yoke wires, the horizontal yoke wires are the one that was so cracked and miserable that I had to splice back together. But wow, the way that tuner came out really has got me psyched to dive more into this set, and the fact that it's working so well. And yeah, that horizontal line is going to be visible. And even though I did get lucky and I scored a replacement Predicta compatible CRT on eBay recently, I'm inclined to leave this one in. It's just kind of a battle scar, considering all of this set has been through. You know, certainly for demonstration purposes, nobody cares about a little faint horizontal line. So that is going to be it. That was one long day's work. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun doing it, a lot of twists and turns I never expected, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out.